all the studies that we use, and and by the way, I said I've been in this business 37 years, certainly doesn't make me an expert, but it does make me a pretty good observer because I've seen a lot of things happen over the course of the years. And I believe that what you do if you're a good observer is you listen to the people that are in the market. You listen to folks like yourselves. You listen to people like Microchannel. You listen to the analysts that come out and talk about it and synthesize some opinion about how things work. And so that's what you're going to hear today, for better or for worse, is the opinions that I've kind of put together from all the years and all the different people that I listen to. All of the studies that I look at ask a few simple questions. And those simple questions are, if you don't want to be my buddy in the middle of the road with the lines down his back, then you have to ask yourself, do I have the right tools? Do I have the right tools? And tools can be technology, tools can be people, tools can be processes. Because the one thing I will tell you, even being a technology guy, is technology without processes are a waste of time. It's the processes that drive the technology to a result. So think about supply chain optimization in the sense of what process do I think about first? Then what technology can I apply against that process? And then how do I arm my employees, my people, with the knowledge to use that technology to really drive that process so that I get the result that I'm looking for? Now the areas that we see the studies talk about and we see in real life that really drive this whole thing are around these four words: collaboration, control, optimization, and visibility. And I'll talk more about those in more depth as we go through the morning together. But those four things: collaboration, how do I work together with other people? Control, how do I manage what I have inside my four walls? And how do I better manage the things that I don't normally have control over? That gets back to visibility and optimization. If I'm trying to control things that I usually don't have control over, visibility into what's going on with them is the only way I have an opportunity to control them. Right? So visibility and control tightly tied together. Now the research would suggest, and this is, I said before, Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Outlook, most widely used pieces of software in the world. But there's an interesting study that came out from Microsoft. I don't know if you know this, but if you don't say no, Microsoft has the ability to capture keystrokes that you use in Excel, Word, and PowerPoint, and Outlook, and report it back to see what you're using. And then when they make investments in the next generation of the application, they can focus on the areas where they're seeing people use the application most frequently. Kind of a smart idea, really, because why invest in an area that no one ever uses? Unless you think they should be using it, in which case maybe you would, but generally speaking, focus on the areas where you can improve people's day-to-day performance. What they find is the average Excel user, me, you, uses 14% of the features in the application. 86% lies totally unused. So I would argue that most companies use 25% or less, following that same paradigm, of the capabilities you have in your systems today. Either you have in your systems, you have in your people, you have in your processes, whatever it might be, there's only 25% of what you have at your beck and call today that you're probably taking advantage of. So when you start thinking about this whole concept of collaboration, control, optimization, and visibility, and you think about how can I begin building processes, maximizing processes, extending processes, to have better visibility, to increase my control, to create more collaboration with my customers, my trading partners, my co-opetition partners. Start thinking about the tools you already have at your beck and call, and you can draw into that process today without anything further. Once you've done that, and you've got a good feel for what that does, then start mapping out the next step. Okay, now I know if I change nothing, what I can accomplish. And maybe that you sit back and go, oh man, I'm screwed. Hopefully, what you say is, gosh, I can get started tomorrow doing some things that'll help me optimize my supply chain with the tools I already have in my arsenal. I already have them in my toolkit. And I can just better utilize them, train my people more effectively, refine the processes so they take advantage of the things that I have. More likely, you're going to find that I can do some of that. There's other things that I need, additional tools to help me run those processes more effectively. And so then look at your organization for what I call low-hanging fruit. And there, again, the funny thing about traveling around like I do, I didn't mention that before. I'm on the road 40 plus weeks a year. because I believe the only way you can do an effective job of being a chief technology officer for a software company is to listen to your customers and your partners and the vendors and understand what's going on in the field so we can build the things into our software that accommodate those. So it requires a lot of being out in the field and traveling. Low-hanging fruit, when I go around to customers, invariably I'll ask them, hey guys, what is it that what one thing could we do in our software that would make your life better? And I get interesting answers. I usually get an answer that says, gosh, if you only had this one feature, it would take a day, a month out of my work, and that would be a huge savings. Now the problem is, 9 times out of 10, it's something that's already in the software, and they're only using 25%. So the good news is I can say, hey guys, turn this knob, use this dial, and all of a sudden you've got what you're looking for. But it's usually low-hanging fruit. It's usually something that's simple to identify, easy to go attack, and you can get a quick win. Because when you're trying to do optimization of anything, but especially in the supply chain, don't go too broad. Even though it's a big, hairy, audacious goal, pick your spots. Try to get a quick win so that you can see and show success to the people within your organization. The other thing that I think is important here is look to your peers. One of the benefits of these kinds of meetings is you meet other people that are in similar businesses that you can leverage over time and say, hey, how have you done that? We encourage users group meetings amongst our users so that we can get people to collaborate amongst themselves on things that they've done that have worked to go after some of these low-hanging fruit opportunities. The other thing is track your vendors. You know, if you're running ACPAC or Business One or one of the ERP systems, they all publish their roadmaps far in advance, so do we. Take a look at what's coming down the pipe from your vendors from a systems standpoint. There may be some interesting things that coincide with your low-hanging fruit that are in a release that's coming out very shortly that you can take advantage of. Plan for that. The analyst would suggest if you're going to look at those 4 areas, control, collaboration, visibility, and the 4th one I can't think of at the moment, these are the kinds of things you should be focusing on. Better collaboration, greater use of system-directed functions. I'm not going to read all that to you because we'll go through them in more depth a little bit later in the presentation. And again, these are all available to you guys to take away. But just things to think about. How can the system do more so I can do less? If we think about our day-to-day lives, and everybody in the room probably has some kind of smartphone. Yes? No? When I went on, we've been on the road. I've been on the road with this kind of a session now since early August. So August, September, and most of October at this point. Hello.
Hey. All right, Norman.
Hi, Norman. I'm Ross.
Okay, good.
Nice to meet you. Welcome. When I went around the room and asked that question, how many people use smartphones, I got about a 70% hit. About 70% of the people in the rooms, and it's probably 500 people at this stage of the game in the relative sessions I've been to, were using a smartphone of some kind. If you use a smartphone, ask yourself a question. How would you live without it today? So I'm stuck in traffic. Graham thinks I've decided to go to the beach instead of coming to the session. And I'm communicating with Graham via my smartphone. Now, to show you how hooked I am, I got down here and my phone didn't work. My carrier in North America had fouled up the transition, so my smartphone didn't work. So I bought a burner phone, prepaid, to make phone calls. And I bought a wireless hotspot so that I could connect my smartphone to the wireless hotspot and continue to do email and web surfing while I was driving in a taxi cab. So I've been carrying around 3 devices all 2 weeks I've been here because, well, partially because I'm a geek, unapologetically a geek, but partially because I don't know how to do business. I don't know how to keep doing the work that I do with being disconnected anymore. It's almost a crutch that I'd love to find a way to get out of. But the point there is, as we start looking at some of these things, let the systems do more. Because most of us, for better or for worse, are connected on almost a 7/24 basis to the electronic world. Most of our customers are connected on an almost 7/24 basis. So finding a way to let the system do more starts to get at some of those collaboration and visibility and control and optimization discussions that we had before, and we'll have more as we go through the process. So, and please don't carry 3 of these. It does weigh your pants down. I don't know why anybody would do that. All right. So the ultimate goal. Now we're going to take those BHAGs and we're going to distill them down into what I would hope you'd see out of this process are these things. And if any of these don't make sense for your businesses, please raise your hand. I'd love to have a chat with you afterwards, because I think over the course of years, this is a distillation of what everybody would love to see happen with an investment in technology on a perfect world. I find a way to reduce my operational costs as a percentage of sales. I find a way to improve customer service without increasing cost. I find a way to produce world-class compliance for my customers and my vendors, so that I never have somebody kick a shipment back to me because a label was wrong, or it wasn't packaged the way that they wanted to take it, or it didn't arrive at the right time frame from a delivery standpoint. And leveraging real-time information so that I can manage by exception. There's an old trite phrase. I started out in the business intelligence business in 1993 with Microsoft. And the trite phrase was that you have to inspect what you expect. Inspect what you expect. So if I set up new processes and I build technological solutions around those processes, if I don't tell people what result I expect, I know I'll never achieve it, because people won't know what their goal was. And so managing by exception, having ways to visually see in real time whether I'm achieving or not achieving that goal, so that I can manage by exception. We had a report in that first iteration of those systems, and I was living in Florida in the States at the time, that said we had a greens report. Anytime everything was in the green, we went to the golf course. So you want to have a situation where you can visually see the success or failure of what's going on. All right, so that's my supply chain optimization presentation. I want to talk a little bit about how you deal with that, and a little bit about us and how we deal with it, and why we're here, and why Microchannel is a great partner. I think when you sit down to do your work, these 4 points